On this Thursday morning, we check in Louisville. Big fight card tonight, UFC on Versus 3, and we're going to do it via the phone, the video hookup. Not too strong today. Kevin Iole is on the road for Yahoo. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this fight card tonight, and let's get right into it. We like to cover things from the straight pick angle and also the betting angle. What do you make of Diego Sanchez, again, back at 170 pounds going against Martin Kampmann?
Well, Diego is always an interesting guy to observe, and he's one of the more spiritual guys, I guess is the best way to say it. But I think coming off that win over Paulo Thiago really did a lot for his confidence. I think Thiago is a really good fighter, one of the better welterweights in the UFC, and Diego handled him pretty well at UFC 121. So, in my mind, I think, he's back to, being the old Diego. This is a tough matchup, I think, style-wise for him, but I don't have a feeling that, he's going to really have some mental problem or come into the fight being less than his best. If he loses, I think it's just going to be because Martin Kampmann was a better fighter tonight and that Diego just didn't have the style to beat him. But I don't think that, the remnants of the problems that he's had in the past, where he talked about being embezzled by $175,000, the problem, after losing to B.J. Penn, accepting that loss and having some other issues. I don't think any of that's going to affect him. I think we're going to see the best Diego. Whether that's good enough to win, we'll see tonight.
You said it's a tough matchup. Why is it a tough matchup?
Well, I don't think Diego's striking is his strong suit, and I think he's going in against a guy that's got a very good striking game, both with his fists, everything. I mean, I think Martin Kampmann's a very good striker, and I think that, if Martin can manage to keep the fight standing, I think he's going to have some advantages here. Now, he showed me against Jake Shields that even in a grappling contest, and Jake Shields might be, the best grappler in the UFC, arguably him, and he's very good. Martin Kampmann didn't do too badly. Lost the fight, but certainly he was in it and gave a very good account of himself. So, I think, to my way of thinking, it's a tough fight.
From the betting standpoint, Kampmann is minus 145. He's the favorite. Sanchez is plus 115. I guess my only issue with Kampmann, and I agree with you, I do think he has a slight edge in most areas, is that he's not always the most aggressive fighter. So if it stays on the feet the entire time, is he going to points fight and potentially lose because Sanchez is on the attack most of the time?
Exactly. I like Diego in the fight a little bit, though, because I think that he's been doing a lot of work with his wrestling, and I think the one thing that, maybe Diego will bring that Jake Shields didn't bring in that fight was Diego's going to give him some more problems. I think that Martin knew against Jake pretty much, hey, Jake's gonna look to get me down, work for position, and try to submit me, and that's really what he had to concern himself with. Now, I think Diego is going to be better, wrestling, getting him down, ground and pound. But Diego does have a little bit of stand up. I mean, he's certainly not, the biggest threat in the UFC from a stand-up standpoint, but I think, he has a little bit more variety to his game than what Jake had. So I would look to see in that regard. Diego gives some problems to Martin, and that's kind of why I'm, especially at the price, getting plus money, even though it's not a big number, but just getting that plus money on Diego, I think, is worth a roll of the dice there.
All right, so Kevin goes with Diego. I'm going to go with Kampmann even with the minus 145, but it's not a strong play. But I think he has enough of an advantage that I would probably lay the minus 145. That's not the case in the next fight that we wanted to get to, and that's Mark Munoz against, at least for me, with CB Dollaway. I think Munoz is a little overpriced here. I like Munoz's overall game. I do think he still has some issues with gas tank and kind of protecting himself in the stand-up game. But CB Dollaway is a pretty solid fighter. Or am I overrating Dollaway?
I think they're two very, very similar fighters. I think they're very, very closely matched. And, if you would have asked me to make a line on this, I might have had it a pick 'em fight.
Mm-hmm.
Really surprised to see the number, Mark Munoz minus $1.90. I mean, to me, that's way overvaluing him. I think, you're going to get some value with CB Dollaway. I picked Munoz to win the fight. But looking at the number, I think, again, I would rather take my chances with that plus money and go with CB Dollaway.
So let's bang through some more fights. We want to talk about Brian Bowles and Damasio Page. Bowles is minus 250. He's coming off a year layoff. Problems with broken hands, which from a betting standpoint and a pick standpoint makes me very nervous, Kevin.
Yeah, I like Bowles to win the fight, but this is a fight, Steve, that I think I don't bet. I just stay away from because you're looking at laying $2.50 with Bowles, and this is a guy that hasn't fought in a long time, and you don't know. He gets into the first round and he lands a clean right hand. Boom, does he have trouble with it? So I think from my standpoint, this is a stay away. If you're just talking about a pick, I like Bowles just because I think he's the better fighter, but and certainly a harder hitter. But in my mind, I would not play this fight.
Some other fights we wanted to take a look at. Interesting fight for the future of Joe Stevenson. He's laying 165. He's going against Danny Castillo. Let me ask right off the bat, are you surprised that he's still at 155 pounds?
I guess not really, because where is he going to go? I mean, I think he came down from 170. Can he make 145? I don't know. Joe's a pretty big upper body, and I just don't see him being able to shed 10 more pounds. I find it hard to believe he could be able to do that. I think if he could, it would be better for him to be fighting at that division, but I just don't see him having the room to give that 10 pounds in his body.
I'll tell you what, though, at 155 against a fighter of this level, I think he's going to steamroll Castillo. I think this is a different class, and I think 165 is kind of a joke.
Yeah, I do like Joe Daddy in the fight, and I think he's a better fighter. I think he also has a lot of motivation because he knows, hey, he's on the brink. With him now, with the record he's had recently, he knows one more loss could be it for him. So I think he has a lot to fight for. I think he's a better overall fighter. I think he wins the fight.
I'll give you another guy who I think is under a little pressure, and that's Shane Roller. I don't think it's an automatic that he stays around moving from WEC to UFC, that he's, again, an automatic to stay on the roster forever, and he's basically in a pick'em fight against a guy who's a grinder, who's won some fights, Thiago Tavares, who can kind of do a little of everything.
Tavares, to me, is a disappointment because you see him sometimes and you say, boy, this guy's going to be really good, and he's got the great jiu-jitsu game, and you think that he's really going to step up and move to the next level, and then he loses a fight or he has a performance where he doesn't look so good. Shane Roller, I think, is a more consistent guy, being, given his wrestling background. I'm going to go with Tavares in this fight, though. I think he has more weapons. I think more experience at this level, and I would expect Tavares to pull out a win here.
I'll give you a fight that could be a knockout of the night just because of styles. Cyril Diabate and Steve Cantwell at 115 apiece. Diabate is a striker, and Cantwell just goes out and throws hands and looks for knockouts, so that should be a nasty fight.
Yeah, Cantwell's another guy that you have to wonder about, haven't been around for a long time with injuries. I think Cantwell's a really fun fighter to watch, a very offensive type fighter. And you're right. I mean, this is one of those fights that I think could very well be a fight of the night, knockout of the night type fight because of the styles that they fight. And not a lot of defense between these two guys, which is good. I think this is an offensive sport, and that's what we're looking to see. So, in that particular fight, I would go with Cyril. I'm just not 100% sold on Cantwell, but I think it's going to be a fun fight.
Last fight we should mention, Palhares is coming back after his bizarre fight last time out where he just kind of lost concentration and kind of bailed on the fight. He's minus 220 against Dave Branch, and there's also always the intrigue with Palhares if he's going to go batty in the cage and hold on to a submission too long.
He's a guy, going into that Dan Henderson fight, he was a guy that I thought, hey, could really be a factor at the middleweight division with his submissions. And I mean, boy, he's got some brutal submissions. It's been kind of up and down. You allude to sort of, maybe not the strongest guy mentally. I think this is a good spot for him, though. I think he comes out with a submission victory here.
All right, big day for you. I know before the fight you're going to go check out the Muhammad Ali Museum in Louisville.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali, I grew up, he was my idol and still is. I just can't believe I got to meet him, and just to go see that, I'm really excited about it. Can't wait. Maybe we can do a video on that and talk about what that was like.
Good deal, Kev. Enjoy the fights tonight. We'll look for the coverage.
Thank you, Steve.